Good evening, my friends. I'm glad you're back to Most Haunted. I had a really outstanding guest tonight, Nick Corey. Unfortunately, Nick come down with an infection, and he called me from the hospital, and he can't make it. Well, I called my friend Tim Clifton, and Tim's going to come in and help me out with this because we are going to discuss one of Missouri's most haunted places, and this is one in which the history is just so incredible when combined with the ghosts and the things that have happened there since then. And of course, I'm talking about Morse Mill, Missouri, which is over in Jefferson County. Let me tell you a little story about this. One night, and this is going back maybe 10, 12 years, I was actually talking to Tim on the telephone about another case. And he said, Dan, wait a minute. I got another call. Let me check real quick. I'll get right back with you. And he put me on hold. He went to the other one, and it was our friend Stephen LaChance. And he had a haunted place he was going to do with a lady named Jackie Carpenter and her daughters. And he wanted Tim to come in too. So Tim got me on. So the three of us was doing the call. And he said, this is a hotel over in Morse Mill. Well, I had just attended a lecture about Missouri's most prolific female serial killer. And her name was Bertha Gifford. And her first husband ran the only hotel in Morse Mill. So I said, guys, I am 75% sure this is where Bertha Gifford lived. And there was total silence on the air. We all knew who she was. Nobody else had drawn that conclusion because it wasn't big knowledge. We knew she'd been arrested in St. Louis County, tried in Franklin County, but it was a surprise. And it turned out it was her building, and she was the most incredible spirit there. Tim was with me on the initial investigation, and a couple of investigations later, I've investigated the place 5 times, never disappointed. And let's bring Tim up, and we'll talk about the serial killer, Bertha Gifford. Tim?
Hey, Dan. How y'all doing?
Not bad. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, Bertha Gifford. Where do we start with her?
Well, let me start with John Morse, who the county was named after. Mm-hmm. John built the building, and he was very pro-slavery. Okay. He, like General Harney, was not a really nice man.
Okay.
Eventually, in the early 1900s, Bertha and her first husband, Henry, started running that place. Mm-hmm. The problem, now, they didn't get along very well. Bertha was considered the most beautiful woman in Jefferson County. And we do know that a few years, right after they got married, but before all this other stuff, she brought potato salad to a city fair, city picnic. Uh-huh. And about 30 people came down with tomato poisoning then. Now, hey, mayonnaise in 19 whatever, yeah, maybe.
But maybe she was just a bad cook.
They say she was an incredible cook. Come on.
If you like poison.
She had a boyfriend 7 years younger than her named Gene, and he had a girlfriend, so he wanted a divorce. She was having none of that. So he moved in with his parents in another town, and suddenly, after visiting with her, he came down with extreme stomach ailment and passed away in screaming agony. May I also throw in that her way of killing was arsenic, yes, which has that. So she married her new boyfriend, Gene. They stayed a while, and during that time, let's see, Gene's mother died of a mysterious ailment. Gene's brother died of whooping cough under her care. He died. Doctor showed up and said, well, it must have been whooping cough, no autopsy. Gene's uncle died under her care of alcohol-related problems, no autopsy. His granddaughter, Beulah, age 8, died of the same symptoms as her alcoholic grandfather, and no autopsy. That little girl's cousin, who was also named Beulah after her because she was only 8 months old or something, she died of the same ailments while being babysat by Bertha. And after that, the baby's mother wanted an autopsy. The doctor said, oh, it must have been the flu. And Bertha threw a screaming, panicky fit. And when that ended, the doctor said, we don't need an autopsy, and there wasn't one. Then a few years later, some more people died. Eventually, the town figured out this wasn't working. There was something about this, so they moved to Catawissa in Franklin County. People started dying there. She had decided she was going to be a nurse. She put on the nurse's outfit, carried a black bag. When anybody had a sick child, she would show up at the house and take care of that baby, or an elderly, or whoever was sick. She'd show up and take care of them. And you understand, at that time, people needed the help because they had nowhere else to turn to. There wasn't a hospital right down the road. So she took care of them right up to their deaths. And it got to the point, her sister-in-law, anytime she was cooking, would stand behind her and watch. They were all certain she was doing this by now. Another lady, she showed up at a little old lady's house. I'm told this lady's like 4 foot tall, and wanted to help take care of one of that woman's grandchildren, and she beat her with a broom down the street to get rid of her. So they knew what she was doing. Eventually, charges come down. She moved to St. Louis County. She was arrested, brought back to Franklin County, big trial. And here's the thing. She was in a cell in the upper 3rd floor of the building and refused to eat because she was afraid she would be poisoned. She also used to scream foul language down at people as they were walking by. Eventually, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity, put into a home for people with mental illness for the rest of her life. At one point, the head doctor's maid and cook passed on. She applied for the job to be the head cook. And they refused that, unfortunately. So we got there after that 3-way call. And Tim, what did you find there?
Well, first of all, when you walked up to this building, it looked dilapidated, on the verge of falling down. Yeah. And there was a little bit of trepidation of going in just because of the condition. You know, when the owner said, "Don't go out on the upper porch."
Balconies, yeah.
Balconies. Do not do that. They will collapse. Like,
right.
Oh, great. So we walked in, and immediately my spidey senses were tingling. You know, I mean, there was so much activity and so many spirits in that building.
Race, would you show us the first photo of the building as we found it that day?
You know, yeah. This is the good side.
Yes.
This is the good side.
But it is now been rebuilt and is in really superb condition. It's beautiful.
And that's great as far as I enjoy preserving old buildings and having my hand in it wherever I can. But things were okay on the first floor. I mean, but when we went to the second floor, oh man. There was.
Show us the second picture of the building. This was taken by a friend of mine while we were investigating it. There was no light. In fact, I don't think when we was there was electricity.
There was no electricity.
We was running electric heaters.
Yeah, but we had to bring a generator to do it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there were no wires to the building.
No.
You know, and I'm sure the building was never constructed with power in mind. But yeah, when we got to the second floor, Uh, there we met a spirit of an old man or older man.
Right.
I'm now 63. I wouldn't consider him old now, but and he was more afraid of us than we were of him. And he would duck in and out of rooms. It was almost comical, like watching the Three Stooges when they're chasing somebody. They go in one door, come out the other, go in one door, come out the other. But he was a very visible, very pronounced, very solid imaged spirit.
Do you think that was her first husband? Because we made contact with her first husband in 2 different places, including the mansion.
I think that maybe it was. I think he felt like he got the wrong end of the stick, as it were. Right. With her and with the way everything, dying of arsenic poisoning is not a desirable death by any stretch.
Henry, the first husband, Bertha, her second husband, Jean, and Beulah Pounds, her victim, are all buried in about a 30-foot radius.
Yes, they are. We went to the cemetery and saw that.
I bet there's a hot time in that cemetery at night.
Oh, yeah. And I think Henry is kind of looking for some justice, because I think when people look at Bertha and they see all the deaths that happen, he's implicated in them also. And he may have been, but then again, he may not have been and just found out. And when he found out, she's like, oh, he's a liability. I got to get rid of him.
Yeah, there's so much we'll never know about this case.
Yeah, there is so much we will never know.
In 1928, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Mm-hmm. And she died in 1951. She is suspected in at least 17 deaths, possibly as much as 30. And there was only 2 that they could absolutely prove. They only dug up 2 bodies. 3. One of them, 2 boys and their father, who had all died at different times. And they said in those boys, and I think one of them is a spirit we've seen there, he died about age 6, and they said there was enough arsenic to kill a bull elephant in his bloodstream.
Yeah, she wasn't subtle, was she?
She liked to get the job done, I guess.
Yeah, she was pragmatic about it. Yeah. The hotel, I guess we can call it a hotel. I assume
it was a hotel. Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, now it is a hotel.
Event center with rooms.
Event center. Yeah, I haven't been there in many, many moons, so that's a little Indian lingo for you, Dan. But I loved the building, even though it looked like it was going to fall down. You could see, what is that? It had great bones. It was an impressive building, considering from when it was built. The only problem was it was an inhabited hotel with guests that never checked out.
And we also know there was a signature of Jesse James in the old register, which I saw that. There was Clara Bow, the actress. You see, folks, back in the day before air conditioning, this place was a really happening spot in the summertime. And the gangsters from St. Louis would come down there, play in the water. It was really, really close to a small river. And there used to be a mill there. That's where it got its name from. And they'd play there, and then they'd play poker at night. And they had prostitutes and alcohol during Prohibition and all that stuff. That building had a big history, even after Bertha.
Yes. And I think when a building has all that energy, it can't help but retaining it. Yeah. All these, what are we going to call them? Charged spirits. Gangsters, murderers. All these people who have their own kind of special built-up energy.
You mean like people too ornery to die?
Hey, that's a good title for book.
Yeah, like this one.
Yeah, exactly. People too hungry to die. You know, of course, now you grew up in Stanton, you know, so you know everything and everybody's got Jesse James's name on it.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think he was ever within 50 miles of there.
You know, to think that a person that, you know, for the folks that are not from Missouri, or Missouri, as you say, who are not from our state, they have no concept. I mean, they may have heard the name, but around here, you couldn't throw a rock and not hit something that had Jesse James's name on it. You know?
Jesse James is considered, right or wrong, as Robin Hood in our era.
Yeah, folk hero. Yeah, he was a folk hero, and
Bertha is not.
Yeah. History doesn't bear that out too terribly well, but you know, maybe one time he gave away stuff. But anyway, back to Bertha. You know, I've read some things on her. I did some research, as I always do in the library, and you know, either she was just truly evil and insane, or she was mega stupid. You know, that maybe there's some books that I read that suggested that she thought that giving someone with a stomach problem arsenic in small amounts would help them, because back then medicine was pretty medieval. You know, some try to paint her as that. After making contact with her spirit, that woman was just pure evil.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you on that one.
You know, I don't subscribe to, you know, she was an abused wife and blah, 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 and all she wanted to do was help people. And no.
You don't use enough arsenic to kill an elephant on a baby. And
no.
One of her victims was 8 months old. Now, later on, they say, and this comes from Mark Houseman. Folks, Mark Houseman was the expert on Bertha Gifford. He used to run the City Museum in Washington, Missouri. Regrettably passed away about 6 months ago of cancer. But he was the expert, and he used to talk about how this woman was telling people after she went through court that she was trying to help them. The one guy was an alcoholic. She was trying to get him out of that misery. The 8-month-old was an orphan. She was trying to help the orphan out of that misery. Come on.
She helped him too, you know?
Yeah, you want to help him, start a GoFundMe account. Don't feed him arsenic.
Yeah, well, you know, but, you know, I mean, history will paint somebody in a certain way, and people that come after them in a different generation, all we have to go on is what's written in books until we went to the hotel and made contact with Bertha. And we realized, this woman tried to start a good PR campaign, but it didn't work.
No, it didn't.
She was a monster. If ever truly there was a definition of the word monster.
Well, when we were there, you and your daughter went off into one room.
Yes.
And I stayed in another room, and the others were elsewhere. And suddenly a scream rung out.
Yes.
And the story I was told at the time, and maybe you should tell it, your daughter had bent over talking to a child's ghost that she felt was there, because she's sensitive also.
Yes.
And she got hurt. Race, could you show us that photo, please?
Yeah. Yeah, those are definite scratch marks. Now, I want to point something out to those who may not know. You'll notice there's 4 of them. If there's more than 3, it usually is not a demonic presence, but a very angry spirit.
A very powerful spirit.
Yes, powerful also.
But you also had said at the time that you believe she was trying to, your daughter was wanting to help the child ghost, and Bertha was wanting to keep it there.
Yes, that's exactly what I believe. I still believe it to today.
Okay.
And this was hey, this is your warning, you know. And you know, I mean, we've talked before about spirits in their power. apparently Bertha was a very powerful person in her personality.
Right.
If you look at what she did, so it doesn't surprise me that she was able to reach out and do that. But she wasn't the only entities in the building.
No.
I believe that there was a much more sinister spirit that was down in the basement that really didn't come out of the basement. That was kind of, thinking back on it. And of course, we're going back a number of years now, but I think that spirit was kind of like the general.
Okay.
It just sat down there and it said, yeah, you go here, you go here, you do this type. Because when we went in the basement, the time we went down there, I don't believe you were with us. I think you were working at the time. It was myself, Mike Greeley, and Stephen and Teresa. And we walked down there in, I believe, Teresa with, she didn't bring her super squirter, but, she, running around throwing holy water all over everything as she usually did.
Hey, it can only help.
We got charged by this thing. I mean, it was a force that manifest as this black blob, best way to describe it. And we were down there, of course, it was by flashlight, so you couldn't see through it. Anywhere else you could shine the flashlight, you could see the wall. And this black blob just came towards us. And we're all like, well, maybe we'll leave the basement alone for a while.
Would you throw the picture of the basement up, please? So the basement was a wreck, but it was built solid.
It was, except for the staircase. I worried about going up and down the staircase. The staircase was horrible.
And then when I was down there, I got that orb, and there was links built into the stone and concrete wall. They kind of look like something you would attach handcuffs or shackles to. But this house was not built till after the Civil War, is my understanding.
Right. Well, to give you more context, we were looking basically at this image, and that black blob came from what would be to the left of that fireplace.
Right.
And it came towards us that way. We were standing off back. We weren't quite, this picture's not quite in the corner like we were, but we were off back. And, there's been very few times in my life that I've wanted to run, and this was one of them. It was oppressive. You just knew, the hair stood up. You knew something evil this way comes, To borrow a line from another book.
Thank you, Race. Well, when we was there, and I was there a couple times after that, you chose not to come back. Yes. And I know at one time they challenged a spirit that was making noise just out of our vision. And they said, you don't, they're not strong, they're cowards, whatever. Left that living room, went into the kitchen, which was the next room over.
Yes.
Came back, and a piece of rebar that had been laying on the fireplace had literally been bent into an L shape. What kind of strength can bend a piece of rebar into an L shape? Just to show the power.
There's only one answer to that. That's a demonic force.
I hate leaning that way.
I know you hate leaning, but something to have that kind of power.
That got
because I don't know of many humans or of any humans that could bend a piece of rebar.
Right. No, I couldn't do it with a forge.
Yeah, to have a supernatural strength to do that has to be, and I know sometimes you and I disagree about demonic, non-demonic, but there were demonic forces there. Yeah. I think the demonic forces were attracted there because so many evil people resided there at one time or another.
And I will not argue that point with you at all. I just, I I don't think they're that often.
Yeah. The only encounter we really had with them was in the basement, and it made its statement, "Don't come down here again." As a matter of fact, that was the last time I was in the basement. One of the reasons, there were several reasons why I didn't come back. This was right about the time that Missouri Paranormal Research was imploding. And I have no great love of Jackie Carpenter. For reasons I'm not going to go into here, but there were definite reasons why. But I also made the cognitive choice as a sensitive. Sometimes you got to know when to go and when not to go.
Okay.
And my thoughts were that this is not a good place for me.
Right.
At the time, my health was very frail, physically.
Right.
I was getting over multiple broken bones, and it was not a good place.
Okay.
And one of the silly things that really disturbed me about it is up on the second floor.
Yes.
And fortunately, it was in late September, I believe, or late
October, because we did the big one in November.
Late October, okay. Mike and I walked into this room, and when we walked in there, the door slammed behind us. And we looked around, and there were tens of thousands of hornets crawling all over the walls.
Oh, wow. I was not aware of that one.
And I turned to Mike, and because he was behind me, I said, "Mike, very slowly open that door so we can get the hell out of here."
Yeah.
And he turned the knob and pulled, and the door came open about 6 inches and slammed back shut. Like, this is not good. I mean, fortunately, it was cool enough. The hornets were
sluggish.
Semi-down. Yes, sluggish, I guess would be the best word. It took us about 10 minutes to get out of that room, and it took both of us pulling on the door to get it to stay open. And we got out, we stepped out, the door slammed again behind us. So, I did peek back in there, and the hornets were still in there. They were not a manifestation. They were
right.
physically there. Had it been a little bit warmer, I mean, I'm not allergic to being stung by hornets, but, when you get stung thousands of times, there's it's one of the few things I'm not allergic to. So,
well, I do know, because I got to talk to you. At one point, this place was used as an agape house, which I don't know if they're everywhere. In Missouri, they are places for people down on their luck to get an apartment and, start over. And this particular building at that time only had one bathroom at the end of the hallway. We talked to a man who was had lived there back at that point. They brought him in to talk to us. He said when he got there, he was told, do whatever you need to do at night before you go to bed, and then don't come out of your room. Well, he'd been drinking and needed to use the restroom. He said when he stepped out of his room, there was a misshapen black figure at the end of the hallway by the bathroom. And it was standing there like it was guarding, and was like it was not going to let him in. He went back into his room. He thought about it. He said, I just really had to go. So he came back out. It was still there. He hunkered down like a football player and ran at it, and then it dodged off, and he went into the bathroom, done what he did, and never, ever had that problem again. He said, I'll have a bottle in there for that.
Yeah, we had talked to the neighbors that lived across the street. Mike and I, the first time we went there, because we were planning on shooting some video and stuff during the daylight when we could shoot it properly, and we were going to process it later, which never ended up happening thanks to Jackie Carpenter. But the neighbors told us constantly they would see lights in the building.
Right.
They would hear sounds coming from the building. Sometimes it sounded like there was the one young man said, it sounds like they were rumbling in there.
Wow.
Like a couple biker gangs, which the place did have biker gangs at times, were in there just fighting like crazy. Several times the sheriff's department was called, and they get there and nothing.
Nothing. Well, on that, the last time I was there, I was actually running a public ghost hunt there. And we sold the tickets. They got all the money, but I was there just helping out because we was trying to bring up money to rebuild the place.
Right.
The owner of it said every night at 3:05, the alarms go off. So here's a key. Here's where you turn it to and push this button and it'll stop. It always goes off at 3:05. Don't know why. So two things happened at 3 o'clock. We were down there and I had one guy filming and he had shut his projector off or shut his camera off, but he was still looking through the viewfinder. And he said right at 3:05, when the alarm suddenly erupted, he saw something walk past me through the viewfinder. I did not see it. He said it was behind me. And just then, Sherry, my wife, who was outside in the truck getting a nap because it was 3 a.m, she said,
the yellow truck.
The radio in the truck came on at 3:05. She figured she better go in and see what's going on because it just popped on.
Yeah. The manifestations were not just located to inside the building. Really? We've seen that many times. I was with Sherry the one time when we got growled at by some inhuman spirit.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
I forget where that was. I forget what location that was, but yeah. One of the few times I saw Sherry actually kind of step back and show a little bit of maybe I have to reconsider what I'm doing here.
I think that was that house that was the only demonic case I even consider that might possibly be one. There in New Haven.
Maybe I was thinking New Haven, but we also did one that was outside of New Haven. They had a chicken coop. And it was an old stone house, or maybe.
Oh, yes, I do remember that one. That was nothing though. That was a family ghost. It was pretty easy going.
Yeah,
I think it was that other one.
Never underestimate family ghost. My granddaughters stayed with us over Thanksgiving, and my youngest granddaughter, who's almost 10 years old. At one point she came to me and she said, "Grandpa," I'm like, "Yeah, who's that lady in the utility room?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Let's go see." And I walked there and I'm, "Honey, there's nothing there." She's like, "She was standing right there," and then she faded away.
And you've been telling me about the woman in the utility room since you moved in there, 6 months ago?
We've been here a year now.
Oh, has it been that long?
Time flies, man. You know.
I've been gone a long time. I didn't realize it.
Yeah. If you have a haunting, it generally is considered by most people that, this building's haunted. Now, it's the ground, it's the air, it's everything around it, depending on what the spirit wants to do and how powerful the spirit is. A lot of times we see those hauntings manifest as shadow people. I know one of your favorite people.
Oh,
Shadow. In my life, I've seen probably thousands of shadow people.
Right.
I still believe there's spirits that just don't have enough energy to manifest all the way. And they just like to watch. Some people call them watchers. But that building had those too. Especially up on, was it the third floor or the attic?
Yeah, I remember having some adventures up there with other crews.
Mike was telling me, or was it Teresa? I think it was Teresa was telling me, you guys did a seance up there?
We did the seance down on the main floor in the fireplace room.
Okay, because something happened up in the attic. You were either, I thought it was a seance, or maybe you had a Ouija board out.
Oh, no, they did. What they had was the sensitive, Jackie's sensitive daughters were up there arguing with a ghost to release the children. And they said they got it done, but I think I got proof they don't. You want to see it?
Sure.
Would you put up the photo from the main room? Race.
Yeah.
Now, this was taken sometime later by a friend of mine who I actually helped teach their crew how to be ghost hunters. They went here on their own. This was it's actually shortened, but it was a big picture of the whole room. And if you show the next one, it's a close-up of a young boy. And the key point of this, outside that window, was a balcony. At this particular time, the balcony had been removed to be replaced. So that boy is hovering about 12, maybe 15 feet off the ground, looking in that window. And I am just certain that's one of the boys that she killed.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, for horror movie fans, first time that I looked at it, it's like, who Voorhees? It sure looks like him. And to the best of my ability, I pulled this picture into Photoshop and looked at it and looked at all the layers. I can't. If somebody manipulated this picture, it was an extremely skillful job.
Okay, thank you, Race.
You know, it's all part of when you're in on an investigation. You really have to keep an open mind.
Oh yes.
And you can't go, oh, that's ridiculous, and write it off. Obviously, that's not Jason Voorhees, but
right.
Man, oh man, our minds, we always try to figure out some category to put everything in.
Yeah.
What that was, I'm not sure. Was it there? I am absolutely sure it was there.
It is. Yes, no doubt about it. So yes, the Morse Mill is very haunted. It is currently rentable, and the owner is Patrick Sheehan. So you can look up Morse Mill Hotel and go investigate it yourself, because the place is incredibly, amazingly haunted.
Yes.
Now let's step away from that place for just a minute.
Okay.
Because how many say 8 years later, 6 years later, I got to investigate the Franklin County Courthouse where Bertha was, where she had been tried, found not guilty by reason of insanity, and sentenced.
Yes.
And we was in a particular room that is used now as a law library. And to be honest, Tim, I'm not sure you was there the first time. Yeah, you must have been. You just weren't in the room at the time.
Yeah.
I was working with John Perkins from MS3 out of St. Charles. We was in another room doing some stuff. My wife and 2 or 3 other women were in that law library.
Yes.
And as they were there, they believed they'd contacted Bertha Gifford.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in there and took the rods. I've got video evidence of all of it, but we don't have time to see all the evidence, of course. But while I was there, I asked her if she scratched that girl and got a yes. I had asked her, of course, if she remembered me from the last time we dealt with her, and I got a yes. And then when I asked something about where are you now, we heard a big thump outside on the door, like somebody had hit the door as they walked by. And then we couldn't contact her again at that time. Later on, we went back in with an ovilus. And that time when we were asking her, in fact, it wasn't even me, it was the prosecuting attorney of Franklin County.
Mr.
He
Morse
was there to guard the property, his wife, and an officer from my jurisdiction.
Right.
And they said, did you kill the children? And the ovilus said, Henry, which was, of course, the name of her first husband, who was also died of a mysterious ailment.
Right.
So we had got so much evidence, and you got an awesome picture.
Yes, I did. That was one of my more awesome pictures.
It was.
Only General Harney's mansion picture, I think, supersedes this picture.
Well, this one got me. It was just incredible because when the courthouse was built, they put an indoor gallows in it so nobody has to get wet when they're killing somebody. And because of that, for one thing, the gallows was never, ever, ever used. There's absolutely no evidence. But I was standing there. You took a picture. You were taking 3-4 pictures at a time. I was using the rods, talking to somebody. And suddenly one of your pictures had a set of legs coming down from the trapdoor.
Yes.
And it looked like something wrapped around their feet so they couldn't kick.
Yeah. And at the time, I don't believe I knew that was the trapdoor. That's what that was for.
Yeah, I don't think I told you yet.
No, we had no idea that was set up as a gallows. I just thought, well, maybe that's how to get the air conditioning to the roof, or, having worked in construction all my life, you find things like that in a lot of buildings, these hatches that seemingly go nowhere until you're the HVAC guy or you're an electrician or whatever, and then you know what that's for. But that was an incredible picture.
Yeah.
I don't recall why I was influenced. I think I was just, what I would generally do is go into a room and start facing one direction and snap a picture about every other second and turn around 360. And I think that's how that picture, it wasn't take a picture here. Now, I have had those moments at other places, like the Horny Mansion, but and nobody in the room at the time had said, "Oh, I'm being touched. I feel this." It was just, now some people might say, "Oh, it's just a light anomaly, and you're seeing what you want to see." But I know dozens of people that have seen that picture and they're like, "That's a pair of legs."
Yeah, with the feet tied, we can all see that.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'll preface that with people. I'll say, "Hey, take a look at this. Tell me what you see." I won't say anything else to them so they're not influenced. They're like, "Oh, yeah, it's a pair of legs that are tied at the bottom."
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But Bertha, now there was, let me jet back on that just a second. There was a couple of lynchings that took place.
I was going to bring it up here.
Yeah.
Yes.
But nothing happened that we are aware of right there on the indoor gallows.
Yeah, I think the prisoners that were lynched were taken outside and hung.
To a tree over on the southwest corner.
Yeah, to a tree, yeah. So, yeah, we don't know of any deaths that actually physically occurred there, but, I think maybe Bertha was there occasionally and she brought her whole gang with her.
Well, I did at one point in that same room contact a spirit who said it was Eugene, her second husband.
Yeah.
And as we talked to Eugene, and he was very good to talk to, and I had also talked to him in the Morse Mill Hotel, but there he swore she was only guilty of the 2 deaths that they dug up the bodies and checked.
Uh-huh.
And, it's like, okay, even 70 years after her death, you're hanging on to this story to protect her. It's not working. It's just not working anymore.
I guess when it comes to murder, I guess it's like eating potato chips. You just can't eat one,
Yeah, keep the lie going, huh?
Why not?
So that was most of the Bertha Gifford story and Morse Mill, because as you said, there are other spirits in Morse Mill.
Oh, definitely are, yeah.
One night during an investigation, we could hear what sounded like the high heels of a woman walking back and forth above us in the second floor, which I can't say it's Bertha. That might have been one of the showgirls, one of the prostitutes, one of the girls that came in. It might have been Clara Bow, for all I know. Charlie Chaplin had been there. Maybe he was walking with his walking stick. I don't know.
Al Capone had been there. A lot of really famous gangsters. I believe I had heard that Elvis and a few other celebrities had also stayed in this. And, we saw the building as it existed in, what was that, about 2008, 2009?
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah, we saw it, just try to imagine what that building looked like in 1929.
It had to have been a beautiful place then.
Yeah, it had to have been a beautiful place to attract those kinds of people.
Right. And it has a slow, nice river right next to it to cool off in the
Yeah,
summertime.
most of the time until it rains.
At that time, Jefferson County only had one sheriff and one deputy, and they didn't go there because, for one thing, it was dangerous. They were probably paid not to. So these people could get away with whatever they wanted to at the time.
And it's interesting how so many hauntings, the involvement of law enforcement or lack of involvement. We uncovered on the Tri-County truck stop that, the sheriff would go there, but the sheriff really, or actually it's probably a deputy. I don't imagine it was the sheriff himself, but, hey, here's some cash. Let's make this nice and clean and neat because we don't want people to understand there's always death around this place. Right. Law enforcement is not what it used to be.
Well, again, at that time, Franklin County had one deputy on at night.
Yeah.
And that was it. And he had the third largest county in Missouri
to
patrol. If there was something that went on there, it could be done, cleaned up, and everyone back to normal before he got halfway to his spot.
Yep. Whether Bertha Gifford was a mass murderer,
yes.
I'm going to say yes, but, I won't rule out the possibility that she had accomplices, or maybe she was guilty of being incredibly stupid about arsenic. I'm not willing to paint her as the mass murderer that it appears she is.
Well, allow me to do it. Yes, she knew what she was doing. She is a murderer, and she is suffering for it now. Apparently, not going on to the next reward.
Yeah, well, that is true. That part is true.
Yeah.
It's not up to you and I or the rest of society to judge. She's going to have a greater judge that she can't lie to.
Well, I will say this one. When they come and got me that time, she was in that room. And I did find out later, while now it's a law library, at that time, that was the women's cell. So we found that out later. But while I was in there, my wife had said she told them killing was fun.
Oh, okay. Well.
Okay. Now, I got in there with the rods, and I've got this on video, and I said, did you kill because it was funny? And I got a no, a very strong no. And then one of them, I guess it was probably Sherry, she corrects me every chance she gets. She said, I didn't say funny, I said fun. I said, okay. Did you kill these people because you thought it was fun? And I got a yes that time. There is a difference in fun and funny.
Yes, there is.
I used the wrong terminology.
Yeah.
She's there. She was doing it, the killing, and she did it because it was fun for her.
Yep. I don't know much more we can say about it. Like I said, I always like to give the benefit of the doubt, but I don't have much doubt.
No.
She was a murderer.
Yes.
Maybe she was framed on some of them, but
yeah, just so happened to be taking care of them when they died. I understand that.
Maybe she just had a black curse on her or something. But anyway, I think that's about all I got about Bertha. I'm hoping the next time that we get together, we can bring up a couple other pretty impressive locations. I'm thinking the Gasconade Hotel in the city of Gasconade in Gasconade County.
The history of that is amazing. It's just
and again, it's a hotel. It was a railroad hotel, so
right.
Katie barred the door. What happened there? Another place would be in the basement of, is it called the Crown Suites now? Is that the name of the?
Yes.
Yeah. We had a great investigation there and the photography studio in Washington. Our Mommy and Me. And that way I can talk about creepy dolls and creep you out.
Yeah, do that with somebody else, will you? I hate dolls.
And you don't want to go to that place, do you? Oh my God, that place was floor to ceiling, nothing but dolls. The lady collected dolls, was it?
No, those were made for sale by a woman who can make them look lifelike, and I still want an autopsy done on them.
Yeah.
Because those things look too real for me.
Right. And another one that we didn't talk a whole lot about, and I don't know how much there actually is to say about it, is the infamous Union Screaming House.
I have never been in there.
Neither have
I. That would
I.
stop me from talking about it, but I've never been in there.
Neither have I. I have been on the property.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard noises coming from the place. I have one time witnessed going by the building when it was vacant and seeing all the lights on, even though the power was shut off to the building.
Now, I know the police have multiple reports of somebody being in there.
Oh my gosh, all the time.
And they will not go in without 3 or 4 officers because they're even spooked out on the place.
A man that I know very well, Jimmy Wells, very wonderful police officer. He does a great job. Will not go into that building by himself.
Yeah.
And that's not saying he's a coward, because there's a fine line between being intelligent and being stupid on certain things. And it's not in his pay grade to go in that place. I did extensive research on the history of Union, Missouri. Lots of skeletons in the closet. Lots of skeletons. So,
right.
Anyway, if we don't catch you, I would like to take this moment to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Oh, well, thank you. And same to you and your family.
Well, thank you. And, stay haunted. And, it's out there. If you look for it, I would always recommend education and safety over, a brave person can be a brave person, but they can also be stupid. There's a fine line between bravery and stupidity.
There's an old saying about there's old pilots and bold pilots, but there's very few old, bold pilots.
That nails it exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
I know from all my years being a firefighter, sometimes you got to sit back and say, well, I'm not going in there,
Right, sure.
And that's happened before, many times that's happened before. You've got to, and especially with the paranormal, you have got to be careful.
Well, the most thing to bring back to me is the idea of following the history, because how many times has the history messed us up?
Well, yeah, but for me, the history is the best part.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You can, I'm the kind of person, I can go to the library and spend a whole day going through newspapers, and I love doing that kind of stuff. That's a lot of fun.
All right, Tim, well, I've got to let you go, but thanks for pulling in at the last minute, and you have a great Christmas time.
You too, Dan, and, to all your viewers, we'll keep watching.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya. Well, now you know a little bit more about Bertha Gifford, and the history behind that whole area is just incredible. And when you investigate, if you've got your own team, you've got to do the history. I was in a place once where I got the history wrong, and it upset the ghost. He started throwing things at me. It wasn't until later that I found out the real story by going into the newspapers. So that's what we had there. My original guest, Nick Corey, I do want to wish him a quick recovery. So this is some kind of viral infection. I'm sorry he couldn't make it today. He would have been an exciting guest, but we'll be back with him soon. Next week, I'm going to have somebody here from Mayberry, Mount Airy, North Carolina, and we're going to be talking about the ghosts there. So until then, folks, you all take care and stay spooked.